Welcome to Year in Review, the show where we break down a year to bring you some of the most notable moments in TV and film month by month. The year was 1982, when a gallon of gas cost around 90 cents, a 19-inch color TV set you back $500, and Disney's futuristic park Epcot first opened. And in the world of movies and TV, Sylvester Stallone continued a major movie franchise while also kickstarting another one. A certain extraterrestrial was trying to phone home, and times were moving fast at Ridgemont High. Plus, Michael J. Fox, a talking car, and a place where everyone knows your name were all introduced to primetime TV audiences. Okay, it's time to go backward a full 4 decades. Yep, it's been 40 years. Here's your Year in Review 1982 edition.
All right, who's next? Anybody else?
And the first movie we're going to talk about today is perhaps best known for Tomorrow. It's Annie. We're going to talk about Annie. Hitting theaters in May, this musical stars Eileen Quinn as the high-spirited young orphan Annie, who goes from living in an orphanage run by the evil Miss Hannigan, played by Carol Burnett, to living with a rich eccentric who is looking to improve his image. But Annie just wants to find her real parents.
It's nice to meet you, Mr. President Roosevelt.
It's my pleasure, Annie. And thank you for bringing the old goat. We'll make a new dealer of him yet.
Inconceivable.
Don't mind him, Oliver.
This marks the first adaptation of the 1977 Broadway musical and was followed by a made-for-TV sequel in 1995 with a handful more adaptations of the original play in the years that followed. Annie went on to earn 2 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Original Score, but despite being the 10th highest-grossing film of 1982, the high production cost kept it from making much money, and the reception was mixed. Critics say John Huston proves an odd choice to direct miring Annie in a sluggish, stage-bound mess of an adaptation, but the kids are cute and the songs are memorable.
I'm coming after you, Balboa.
Let's call it off.
Oh, come on, it's for charity.
You're wearing your anatomy out for charity. Nobody else does this much for charity.
Bob Hope would.
That's true.
And from one single named character to another, although this one is a bit different, May of 1982 also brought us Rocky III. This sequel to 1979's Rocky II was the second film in the franchise to be directed by Sylvester Stallone, who also returned to star as the one-time working-class boxer Rocky, who's now a rich and famous world champion. But after losing his title to Mr. T's Clubber Lang, Rocky turns to an old foe for help in trying to reclaim his past glory. Not only was this the feature film debut for both Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, this was also the Rocky movie that introduced us to Survivor's Eye of the Tiger, a song that became an Oscar-nominated smash hit and a huge part of popular culture for decades. And Rocky III was a knockout at the box office as well, becoming the highest-grossing installment in the franchise at the time and the 4th highest-grossing film of 1982 with $270 million. Critics say it's noticeably subject to the law of diminishing returns, but Rocky III still has enough brawny spectacle to stand in the ring with the franchise's better entries. Crash landing in June of 1982 was the worldwide phenomenon known as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, a Steven Spielberg-directed film about a young boy who discovers and befriends an alien, one that really needs to go home. This sweet tale features Henry Thomas, who has gone on to appear in a bunch of movies like Gangs of New York and more recently Dr. Sleep, plus a young Drew Barrymore who was 7 when the film was released and already established herself as a star. E.T. closed out the Cannes Film Festival a couple weeks prior to the US release in June and went on to become the highest grossing film of all time until Spielberg's own Jurassic Park stomped it down to number 2 in 1993.
As we get started with the dissection, remember that the things that you are writing down.
The 99% certified fresh film also won 4 of 9 Oscar nominations, including The Man, John Williams, winning for what is just one of many iconic film scores. Critics say playing as both an exciting sci-fi adventure and a remarkable portrait of childhood, Steven Spielberg's touching tale of a homesick alien remains a piece of movie magic for young and old.
I don't know what the hell's in there. It's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Bennings, go get Childs.
This movie was The Thing when it came out on June 25th, 1982, as in it's called The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. The sci-fi horror flick is about a group of American research scientists in remote Antarctica who encounter some sort of alien thing that can assume the shape of its victims. Kurt Russell stars in the film with a supporting cast that includes Wilford Brimley, Keith David, D.K. Carter, and Richard Dysart. But unfortunately, all those familiar 80s faces were up against a much more family-friendly alien at the box office by the name of E.T., leading to disappointing results.
You too!
The Thing was initially released to an abundance of negative reviews, but it eventually found its audience through home video and TV airings through the years. It's gained a cult following and was ultimately reassessed as one of the best sci-fi horror films ever. Critics say, grimmer and more terrifying than the 1950s take, John Carpenter's The Thing is a tense sci-fi thriller rife with compelling tension and some remarkable makeup effects.
You better get it up. I'm gonna have to kill you. Unless you're alive. You can't play, and if you don't play...
And looking to outpace The Thing on June 25th back in 1982 was the Ridley Scott sci-fi film Blade Runner. Taking place in 2019, a pretty far-off future at the time, I suppose, Harrison Ford stars as Deckard, a former Blade Runner forced back into his old job to hunt down 4 replicants who stole a ship in space and headed to Earth. The film is an adaptation of a Philip K. Dick novel, leading to more of his work being made into big Hollywood blockbusters like Total Recall and Minority Report.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
Facing stiff competition and with a story that caused confusion among viewers at first, it took this certified fresh film a little while to achieve a cult classic status. But it's now considered one of the best sci-fi films of all time. A sequel, Blade Runner 2049, came in 2017 with Denis Villeneuve directing and Harrison Ford returning to star alongside newcomer Ryan Gosling. Critics say, misunderstood when it first hit theaters, the influence of Ridley Scott's mysterious neo-noir Blade Runner has deepened with time. A visually remarkable, achingly human sci-fi masterpiece.
This guy's been stoned since the 3rd grade.
Yes?
Yeah, I'm registered in this class.
What class?
This is U.S. history. See the globe right there.
Really?
Hey. May I come in?
Oh, please. I get so lonely when I hear that 3rd attendance bell ring and all my kids are not here.
And checking into homeroom on August 13th of 1982 was the coming-of-age dramedy Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This film about the loves and lives of high school kids in California stars Sean Penn, Judge Reinhold, Phoebe Cates, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and includes very early appearances from future stars like Nicolas Cage, Eric Stoltz, Forrest Whitaker, and Anthony Edwards. This marked the feature film debut for director Amy Heckerling, with a screenplay written by Cameron Crowe and based on his 1981 book about the time he went undercover at a San Diego high school.
Arnold, what's happening?
Can I talk to you, man?
Sure, man.
I really hate Bronco Burger, man. Ever since they started with the chicken nuggets, everything went downhill. You have to fry all their greasy food and everything. You have to polish things, and the manager's an asshole. I was just wondering.
Arnold, you want to work at All American Burger.
Fast Times went on to gain iconic status through TV airings and home video releases, thanks to a few unforgettable scenes, with Sean Penn once describing the film as taking on a life of its own. Critics say, while Fast Times at Ridgemont High features Sean Penn's legendary performance, the film endures because it accurately captures the small details of school, work, and teenage life.
Jeff, you'll be fine.
I won't be fine. I'm too nervous. I've gone over this date in my mind 100 times. There are only 4 times where I didn't spill something.
You'll be all right. Just, don't order anything to drink.
Big things were happening on the small screen in 1982 as well, including the premiere of the sitcom Family Ties, which ran on NBC for 7 seasons and wrapped just before the 90s hit. Which makes sense because this series focused on 2 former hippies trying to raise a traditional family in suburban Ohio during the Reagan administration, often clashing with their young Republican son played by Michael J. Fox. Speaking of Fox, he got the role after Matthew Broderick turned it down and went on to earn 3 straight lead actor Emmy Awards at one point during the show's run. Not to mention, he became a full-fledged Hollywood star, also thanks to the Back to the Future trilogy, which was produced and released during this series' run.
Alex, what time did you get in last night?
Oh, I don't know, Mother. What is time, really?
Family Ties has lived on in syndication since the fall of 1987, and if you ever come across it, keep an eye out for Courtney Cox, who played Michael J. Fox's girlfriend during the last 2 seasons. Fun facts! Critics say, Family Ties' subversion of the generation gap is initially more strained than inspired, but the warmth shared between the Keaton clan makes for an inviting sitcom, with Michael J. Fox an immediate standout as the conservative upstart.
Hey, kid, how about a little music, huh?
Sorry, the Alpha Circuit took out the radio, too.
You're never gonna forgive me for that, are you?
Michael, forgiveness implies an emotional state that has no application in my case. However, I doubt that I shall ever forget it.
Nearly a decade before he was running on the beach wearing a swimsuit on Baywatch, David Hasselhoff was riding in a talking car and wearing a leather jacket on Knight Rider, which premiered on September 26, 1982. The series ran for 4 seasons on NBC and starred the Hoff as a sleek and modern crime fighter named Michael Knight. His partner was an artificially intelligent, souped-up Pontiac Trans Am called KIT, which stood for Knight Industries 2000. KIT was voiced by William Daniels, who was also starring in the NBC drama St. Elsewhere at the same time, although his name was never seen in the credits for Knight Rider per his request. After the series wrapped in 1986, the story continued with Hasselhoff coming back for a couple made-for-TV movies, Knight Rider 2000 in 1991 and Knight Rider 2010 in 1994. I know, it's a lot of numbers.
Where'd they go? Good work, kid.
Thank you, Michael. It was all quite elementary.
Another TV movie in 2008 served as a pilot for a new series with a Ford Mustang Shelby and Val Kilmer making up the character of KIT, this time standing for Knight Industries 3000, obviously, but it only lasted 1 season. Critics say this car can do anything, except paper over how tiresomely silly Knight Rider's concept is.
Norm, the best party I was ever at was in a locker room, right? We're all standing around in our underwears, pouring champagne on each other, guys flinging guys into showers. It was terrific, Norm.
Coach, that was after we'd won the division championship.
That's right. That's why we were all in Cleveland.
Right. And premiering just a few days later on September 30th and forever changing sitcoms and primetime TV in the process was the show about the place where everybody knows your name, Cheers. This series centered around Ted Danson's Sam Malone character, a former Red Sox relief pitcher turned owner and head bartender at Cheers. And he was joined by an ensemble cast throughout the years that include Woody Harrelson, Kelsey Grammer, Kirstie Alley, Shelley Long, John Ratzenberger, and George Wendt, aka Norm. After being nearly canceled during its first season due to low ratings, the series went on to run for 275 episodes across 11 seasons on NBC, earning Emmy nominations for Outstanding Comedy Series 11 straight times and winning 4.
Well, he's coming now, and someone has to tell Sam.
Let me do it. I'm a smoothie about breaking bad news.
Yeah.
Sam, your apartment burned down, you lost everything.
Oh, my God, really?
No. Your brother's in town, he's on his way over. Makes you feel better, doesn't it?
It's hard to track all the different guest stars and celebrity appearances over the years, which include people like Johnny Carson, Alex Trebek, Arsenio Hall, Emma Thompson, Harry Connick Jr., and John Kerry. But what many people won't forget is the series finale in 1993, watched by an estimated 93 million people, or about 40% of the country's population at the time. No wonder everybody knows their names. Critics say, with an instantly comfortable setting as endearing as its characters, Cheers lays out the template for a classic ensemble comedy with its entertaining first season.
I could have killed them all. I could have killed you. In town, you're the law. Out here, it's me. Don't push it. Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe.
Much like the spring of 1982, the fall included a major Sylvester Stallone franchise film, but instead of Rocky, this time it was the start of Rambo with First Blood. This action film was co-written by Stallone, who stars as a misunderstood Vietnam veteran named John Rambo, who finds himself at the center of a massive manhunt and has to rely on his combat skills to survive. The film is based on the 1972 novel of the same name by David Morrell, which was a hot item around the industry in the 1970s before finally getting made in 1982.
Look at him out there. Look at him! If you don't end this now, they're gonna kill you. Is that what you want? It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing!
First Blood performed well at the box office and went on to become the first Hollywood blockbuster to be released in China in 1985, and from there it became a full-blown franchise, with 4 sequels, all co-written by and starring Sly, plus an animated series, comic books, novels, video games, and even a Bollywood remake. Critics say, much darker and more sensitive than the sequels it spawned, First Blood is a thrilling survival adventure that takes full advantage of Sylvester Stallone's acting skills.
Yo, man, I hope to God none of my fellas see me riding around this car, man. You really let this go bad.
You don't understand is I don't care how it looks.
You ain't got no class, Jack.
Class isn't something you buy. Look at you. You got a $500 suit on. You're still a lowlife.
Yeah, but I look good.
Clocking in on December 8th in 1982 was 48 Hours, marking the first ever film role for a rising SNL star named Eddie Murphy. He landed the part after top choices like Richard Pryor and Gregory Hines turned it down and ended up turning in a Golden Globe nominated performance. Murphy plays a wisecracking criminal who teams up with a no-nonsense cop played by Nick Nolte, and together try and catch 2 cop killers within the time frame of 48 hours.
Take game, man, and blow his brains out.
Bullshit, he ain't gonna try it. Right, cop?
Are you crazy, man? I was just bluffing.
This film, which spawned the sequel Another 48 Hours in 1990, has been considered one of the first in the buddy cop genre, one that would eventually include franchises like Lethal Weapon, Bad Boys, and Rush Hour. Despite studio executives never really being that happy with the script or Murphy's performance during filming, The Certified Fresh 48 Hours ended up being one of the best reviewed movies of the year and the 7th highest grossing. Critics say, marking an auspicious feature film debut for Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours is a briskly paced action comedy that succeeds largely due to the outstanding chemistry between its two leads.
Oh, the prophecy says you must find the shard. The crystal shard.
The crystal shard?
To save our world, Gilfling, you must find the shard.
And nothing says the holidays like giving kids a little bit of a scare, which is exactly what The Dark Crystal did when it was released in theaters on December 17, 1982. Directed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz and featuring only animatronic puppets, this film follows Jen, who after being raised by a noble race called the Mystics, is told that he is the last survivor of his own race, the Gelflings.
Over here. Stanje Tamar.
What's that?
It's a land strider. Stanje Tamar. Dobar. Dobar.
How did you learn to call them?
The pondlings taught me.
And now he sets out on a mission to find a shard of the Dark Crystal, a powerful gem that once brought balance to the universe. The Dark Crystal was marketed as a family film, but ended up being much darker compared to what Henson and Oz were known for, aka the Muppets. But the animatronic technology used was groundbreaking for the time, with most creatures needing roughly 4 puppeteers to achieve the full effect. Jim Henson personally made some edits after a disastrous preview, including redubbing some characters' voices. And while final reviews were mixed initially, the film went on to achieve cult status, and in 2019, a prequel series premiered on Netflix. Critics say, the Dark Crystal narrative never quite lives up to the movie's visual splendor, but it remains an admirably inventive and uniquely intense entry in the Jim Henson canon.
Wait. I'm new in town and I'm awfully lonely. I wondered if you wouldn't mind buying me lunch.
Wait, hold on. You can't come. Gregory, this was.
George. It's Michael Dorsey, okay? Your favorite client. How are you? Last time you got me a job, it was a Tomato.
Oh, no.
Yeah? Swear to God.
Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I begged you to get some therapy.
And finally, also hitting theaters on December 17th to help finish out 1982 was the hit comedy Tootsie. Directed by Sidney Pollack, this film stars Dustin Hoffman as a talented actor struggling to find a job, so he takes on a new identity as a woman and lands a part in a soap opera. Joining Hoffman was a supporting cast that includes Jessica Lange, Bill Murray, director Pollack, and Gina Davis in her film debut. And speaking of Lange, she brought home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, the only win from the film's 10 nominations, which included one for Best Picture.
That guy wanted me. You cannot believe the night I have had tonight.
I think I could imagine.
Oh, no, you can't. I saw the look in his eyes. I was in big trouble. If you don't come in, I'm in the Daily News the next morning.
How did you ever let him in here?
What do you mean, how did I let him in here?
Yeah,
he was singing.
Is he that good a singer?
The Certified Fresh Tootsie also became the second highest grossing film of the year behind E.T., with over $177 million at the box office. Tootsie doesn't squander its high-concept comedy premise with fine dialogue and sympathetic treatment of the characters. Well, that's it. What a fun trip through the year 1982. Gotta love the 80s. The next step is checking some of these out. Just remember these 5 words: Rocky, Rambo, Annie, Tootsie, and Cheers. See you next time.